Good morning, Diane. This is Special Agent Dale Vaper. I'm down here in Central Florida traveling from Twin Peaks incognito to visit my good friend Slap Maxwell. He called me after receiving an interesting package in the mail from Hong Kong. It is the VAMO V3, and he's asked me to come down and investigate it with him. As you guys know, if there's one thing I like more than a great piece of cherry pie, it's an awesome vape. By the way, you ever here in Central Florida visiting Slap? Makes a damn fine cup of coffee. Okay, Diane, I hope you're receiving this okay. I seem to be having a hard time maintaining the sat phone connection. In any event, here is the unboxing of the VAMO V3. Nice little sturdy cardboard presentation box. Inside, we have a certificate of quality assurance stamped by someone who verifies that this thing operates correctly. We also have an instruction manual that seems quite large and I'm assuming will be quite thorough. We will find out shortly, and here's the device itself. It's wrapped in a plastic wrapper. Nice stainless steel construction. You can see the relatively shallow spiral cut grooves in the body of the device that some folks deem fugly. Let me set this box aside for just a moment. And here you go. Now, there are a few differences between the VAMO V3 and the previous iterations of the device. Number one being the beauty ring on top with the Pro-Vari style pips. Some of the early models apparently came with little rhinestones in those pips. Thank God this one didn't. Also, the new display and menu system, which we're going to go over later. And also in the V3, there are two separate battery compartments now. There used to only be one. Now you can totally remove the battery components from the control head itself. Now, the beauty ring comes right off to expose the 510/Ego connector on top. The threading is quite smooth on the device. On the bottom, we also have our battery cap with a nice gold beefy spring, much like the version 2 spring. And here, of course, we can remove one battery compartment to put it into 18350 mode. And of course, like I mentioned, we can now remove both battery compartments. So we just have the control head. It would be nice if some entrepreneur creates a telescoping option for the VAMO V3 instead of having to rely upon the fixed length gizmos here. Sorry for the dropout, Diane. I've installed an 18650 battery in here. Quite a long device, about 1/4 of an inch longer than a version 1 or version 2 VAMO, not radically longer, mainly due to the U-removable beauty ring. Speaking of which, version 1 and version 2 VAMOs, you could not put a T3, an EVOD, any sort of device like that on there because there just wasn't room. You have plenty of room in this bad boy now. You can put pretty much any sort of Ego threaded device on here and not have to worry about it fitting or having a restricted airflow. Now, the big difference, besides the cosmetic differences, there's the fugly little spiral cuts, which are actually quite functional, especially if you are in an area like Washington State or here in Central Florida where it's raining a lot, it's very humid, maybe you're sweating. The old VAMO would slip right out of your hand 9 times out of 10. This is not going any friggin' place. All right, that's pretty cool. Now, the display system. It's pretty much like the Sigali, the VMAX. If you're familiar with those, you're going to be familiar with this. I'm of a split mind about this. I liked the big, bright display of the version 1 and version 2 VAMO. This, 5 clicks, turn it on. Okay. Tiny little letters, tiny little numbers. There's 8 watts. If you have this outside in the bright sunlight, you're not going to see this. Forget about it. You know, you can do this, you know. It's just washed out. Also, if your eyesight's not that great, that's pretty small. But be that as it may, it's different, okay? You have some menu options that you didn't have before. I'm not going to go into great detail with them because you're probably familiar with them from other devices. Press the two buttons together. Well, press the two buttons together. Yeah, power voltage. Okay, I've set it for power output. And there we are at 8 watts. Okay, there's your LCD on and off. There is your LCD display. That tells it what you want it to display, whether you want it to display your device resistance or the life of your battery. And okay, that's toggling that. LCD on and off. If you turn LCD off, when you push the fire button, you get no display. Okay, I've got it turned on, so whenever I push the fire button, it's going to show me what I have the LCD display set for, which in this case is either power or voltage. So there you go. Nothing radically different there. I am going to install a Smoke Tech Aero, which is a bottom coil T3 kind of device. Review to follow. There you go. Fits right on there, no kind of problems. Still got plenty of space there for airflow. I'm going to set this for 8 watts and do a vape. Tons of vapor, which really says more about the device itself than the VAMO, because the VAMO is just supplying voltage and current. But it's obviously working. I'm going to jack this up to 9 watts. We should see a difference, right? Lots of vapor. Great taste. So there you go. Something you're going to want to note. It's a good thing this beauty ring is removable. I've learned this the hard way. If you go to take off an EVOD, a T3, an Aero, you know how they're made, right? They have a removable base. If you go to turn this to take it off of the VAMO, are you really taking the device off, or are you simply separating the tank from the bottom connector? I always remove the beauty ring whenever I'm using a T3 or an Aero. That way, no question, okay, comes right off. You know what you're turning. You're not going to end up with a shirt or a lap covered in juice. Now, it doesn't really look that bad either with the beauty ring off. And next, let's slap my Cobra Genesis style atomizer on here. I'm going to put the beauty ring back on because this really looks nice with the Genesis style device. All right. Here is my Cobra clone. I'm going to jack this up to about 9.5 watts. Okay. Almost empty. Give it a little bit of a tilt here. Nice vapor. Looks pretty sharp. Sitting on top of the old VAMO. So there you go. I mean, there's not a lot to say about it. It is slightly different from the version 1 and version 2 iterations. Mostly cosmetic, being the shallow spiral cuts to do away with the slippiness, the new removable beauty ring, nice feature so that you can use your any size device really, and the new menu system, which I don't know, I don't really hate it, I don't really love it, it's different, but it still functions pretty much the same. So there you go, Diane. That's the VAMO version V3. I want to thank Slap Maxwell for having me down and supplying me with some juice and some devices to check it out with. Until next time, vape on, fellow babies. Jeebus dog, did you see how long it took to render that video with that low-tech noise filter? God almighty, I should have just shot it on a cheap-ass old camera. And when are those guys going to be done with my audio-video studio, for God's sake? Jeez.